Well, hello, everyone. Jericho Green here with you once again. Make sure you hit the link to my Teespring, 20% off with promo code Sloppy Joe, all caps, no spaces, and give me a follow on X at green_Jericho. But enough about me. If you have questions about your digital money, well, I have the perfect guy for you. He's a master of digital money. He's the president and co founder of My Digital Money, and he's a newly married man. Ladies, step off. I'm talking about my man, Guy Gottslack. What's up, Guy?
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, man, of course. And congratulations again. I can't congratulate you enough. That is awesome that you are married and stepping into that husband slash, probably future dad role. So that's going to change your views on your money and what the future looks like for your money because you will literally have skin in the game. So thank you for being here, man.
Literally,
And
yeah, thank you.
yeah, literally. Yeah. So as we were talking before we started, there's something that I want to end with to kind of give people a little bit of hope and optimism to send them into their weekend. But to start it off, I wanted to talk about Ethereum and as you put it, the good news that you came back to when you returned, back home from being married, the good news that you saw in your portfolio. So please enlighten the people.
Yeah, so the Ethereum spot ETF is basically been pending. The big asset managers that got approval in January for a Bitcoin spot ETF, uh, they've been waiting for their approval. The deadline for the application is at the end of this month in May. And most people thought that it would get rejected this time around, and maybe we'd have a better shot at the end of the year. But right now, there's positive signs before the SEC, who's the entity, Securities and Exchange Commission, that's supposed to approve or is the one that's responsible for giving an answer. They, previously didn't show any interest, didn't ask questions, which usually means they're not engaged and they might not approve it. But recently, they came back with very specific questions, and there were signals that. Uh, we are looking good for an approval. And because of that, the market responded very positively, and Ethereum has increased in price more than 20% in the last few days. Today, Bitcoin is down a few percentage points, and Ethereum is still up, about 2%. So it's definitely affecting the price of Ethereum, and we could see as much of a 60% rally if
Wow.
the Bitcoin spot ETF is any indicator. The Ethereum price could rally 60% if the spot ETF is approved. Um, so there's
Mm.
some good news and some reasons to buy there, um, and it will of course prop up the whole market. So that's good. We're looking good in terms of institutional adoption because that's what the ETFs do, right? They bring in institutional players, and they bring in people like my parents, because ETFs are pretty easy to invest in. Not that I'm preaching that. I still think you should invest with companies like our company, My Digital Money. We can get into those reasons why, um, but ETFs at least provide accessibility for kind of the broader traditional financial markets.
Mhm. So that's 60%. There's a lot riding on that approval. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, my view is it's going to happen regardless. So, if it doesn't happen this time, it'll happen, probably the end of the year. But it is looking good, and yeah, that means that if you are looking to make some gains, this could be a good time to get in. Um, as long as you can write it out, if the price goes down, if you don't need the money right now, it is going to go up, and it will eventually double, triple, quadruple. Uh, and Bitcoin, it's outperformed every asset class in the last few years. Um, so yeah, my view is, if you're looking to buy a house or if you're looking to retire, uh, at some point and not and have enough to retire, then Bitcoin is a great solution. Uh, most people can't buy homes right now. Like rent is a better option.
Mhm.
Uh, than mortgage for most people. And so, um, the way I look at it is like my crypto portfolio is my only hope right now. Uh, that and starting businesses, but starting businesses is not easy to do, especially right now. So,
So with well, two things. Rent. I've seen, especially in California, where we live, rent can get pretty high too. We were looking. We own our home, or we have a mortgage, but we were looking at some of the prices of rentals. And granted, this is a few months ago, so I mean, still kind of in the same boat. But some of those rent prices were, ay ay ay.
yeah.
But since Bitcoin has such great performance, the fact that it's down a little bit, like you mentioned, I mean, is it kind of, how should people view that? Is it kind of like, well, it's just down a little bit, but it'll rebound. Don't worry about it. Or should they take these down
Yeah, I mean
trends?
that's the nature of yeah, it's the nature of not just crypto, but even the stock market. I mean, it's never going to go up in a straight line, right? And so, um, it's down a few percentage points today. That's normal. It's not down 20%, right? Um,
Mhm,
and so, it's a volatile still asset class. And so that the way I view it is, you could basically make gains that way, right? If you're putting it, if you're, let's say you're investing with my digital money using a crypto IRA, you're not taxed on any gains, at least not until later, right? Or if you have a Roth IRA, you're not taxed at all on the gains, and so you can just play around and basically, when the price goes up, you sell. The price goes down, you buy. The price goes, you can keep doing that if you have some time, um, or you can leave it there too. But the volatility really gives you an opportunity to optimize your gains further. Um, so yeah, I think if you have some appetite for risk, it's volatility can be
mhm,
good. Uh, but yeah, it's just a series of higher lows, right? I mean, if you look over time, um, Bitcoin went up 160% last year, and if you look over a very long period, it's blown out any asset class really. So, and Ethereum is not far behind that. I mean, it's the second largest cryptocurrency, and it's continuously improving and getting more adoption. More applications being built on top of it. Um, and so it doesn't have as much of an energy footprint as Bitcoin, and there's a lot of good reasons there. um, yeah, and also if you just look at what the big banks are doing, um, they recently released their quarterly reports of what they're investing in, right? And they have actually invested in the Bitcoin ETF. A lot of these big banks, like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan. um, so there's a saying, in the industry, like basically watch what they do, not what they say, right?
mhm,
Um, and often, what these big banks do is a good indicator of uh, where the market is going. They're usually pretty good about knowing what to invest in, and so with their latest 13F filings, they revealed that they've invested a significant amount in Bitcoin. JP Morgan leading the charge, and keep in mind, the CEO of JP Morgan was always the biggest critic of Bitcoin, um,
mhm.
and there they are investing in it, right? And Wells Fargo and US Bank and PNC, um, all these banks are investing. So
So if you don't have a quote appetite for adventure, I guess, when it comes to investing, would you say it would be smart, I guess, to kind of hitch your wagon to the JP Morgans and Wells Fargos and kind of just follow where they go? Or would you, recommend that sometimes, take a little risk?
yeah, it really depends on you and your appetite for risk and your goals, right? I think Bitcoin is always a great place to start. It's relatively safe compared to other cryptocurrencies, and Ethereum is a good next place to go.
Mhm,
If you want to, have higher gains, then you can go to the altcoins, and the ones on our platform are, in my opinion, kind of the safest ones, and that's how we make our choice, right? Is like the ones that have the biggest potential for growth, and have the most liquidity. Um, those are the ones that we have on our platform. We don't have the biggest selection of every company, but that's because we're very careful, and
Mhm.
want to be in compliance, right? So Solana is on our platform. That one, in the last year and a half gained, 10x, right? So think about that. I mean, that's 900% gain, right? Uh, and so if you want those type of gains, then you have to have the risk appetite, of course. I always say invest what you can afford to lose, what you don't need to pay your rent. And if you have an IRA, like I'm not going to touch my IRA anytime soon. So for me, it's a no brainer.
Okay, so speaking of renting and the housing market, like you said, it's not a good time for buyers. But what do you say to, uh, let's say, a man who's in your position, just got married? Maybe he has an IRA or a 401k. He's been working for a while. And even though it might not, okay, stay with me here. So I was watching a nature show one time, and it was about the wildebeest migration in Africa. And you have about 2 million, 2 to 3 million wildebeest migrating. They're following the rain. They're following it to where the rain is, to where the grass grows, so they can eat. And they come to the Nile River, and the wildebeest in front that get to this ledge first, because it's probably a 15-foot ledge, and then it's into the Nile River. Well, the crocodiles have evolved to know that this time of year there are going to be millions of wildebeest crossing this river at these certain points. So the crocodiles gather, and they're literally waiting there in the water for that first wave of brave wildebeest to jump into the water to get across and follow the rain. So the wildebeest that get there first, they're feeling the pressure build behind them of all the other wildebeest who are arriving there too. And it's kind of pushing them to the edge to where they're forced to take that first step. So, what advice, I guess, would you give to people in a position where maybe they're newly married, they're going to be starting a family, and they feel the pressure to take that first step into that American dream, owning a house, having 2.3 kids and a dog and a white picket fence? Would you recommend that maybe they hold out to see how this whole housing market storm is going to end? Or is there a way to kind of carefully navigate this minefield to where they can still start that chapter in their life? Or would you recommend I wouldn't take that step?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a personal choice, but I mean, for me, um, my personal opinion is don't overextend yourself. Um, I've seen a few people in my friend group that are what they call house poor, right? Um, which is not a good way to live, where you put everything into your home, and now you don't want to take a vacation or go out to a restaurant, or I can't even hang out with them, right? Unless I come over to their house, right? That's the only way to
Mhm.
see them, because they don't want to spend money. Um, and so for me personally, it really depends on what you value. I value experiences. I value, going out to eat and traveling. And so I wouldn't want to overextend myself. And that's why I try to be smart about my finances, and I'm not investing everything in Bitcoin, but I invest enough that I can have the gains, and then once I have enough gains and the house prices reduce, then I'll buy at the right time. I mean, it's
Mhm.
for me, renting is okay. Like, buying a house is kind of an emotional decision, and some people just want to have that status. But it's becoming more and more acceptable, to rent, and I think buying a house is great, but you have to do it within your means, right? And so that's why I think investing in Bitcoin and crypto is good, because that could help you get there. Um, especially when inflation is so high. Even though it's getting better, it is getting better, but
Mhm.
we can't depend on our government always to do the right thing and to manage our money supply in the right way. And that's why I think investing in something outside of the government, precious metals is also very good as well, but that's more just to preserve your wealth. Um, I think that's good, right? That's a good way to hedge, and just be smart and don't overextend yourself. That's my own personal opinion.
Mhm. So if they, if people are looking to get with a company that's going to help them, of course, like yours, My Digital Money, is there anything that you guys offer to kind of teach people? I don't want to say teach them like financial discipline, but maybe give them ways to kind of handle their money properly and do the right thing with their money.
Yeah, so I mean, we try not to be advisors. We're not financial advisors, right? And so we want to be careful. We do want to give information, so that's what we do. We have newsletters, and we have our YouTube and our social media, where we try to keep people informed, right? And if people call us, we can give you information. We won't give you explicit advice, but we can tell you, here's a strategy that people do that might work for them. This is the pros and cons of doing this, right? We could talk about dollar cost averaging, or other things like that. To give you the information. So we do help there, but we're not
Mhm.
financial advisors. I just want to put out that disclaimer.
All right. And you mentioned inflation. Here's something that I've heard. Tell me if you agree with this or not. Basically, in the simplest terms, the government is the only way that inflation is created. There's no other thing that creates inflation except basically the federal government. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the printing, overprinting, all right, of money out of thin air, right? Which is why I like Bitcoin, because it has a limited supply,
Mhm.
and no one can just sit there and make more and overprint. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's what it is, and then it's making decisions, that affect prices. Uh, and so yeah, I would, I tend to agree.
So speaking of inflation, um, can you let the people know what the goal percentage is that we want to get inflation down to, and kind of where we are now and a bit of improvement that we've seen recently?
Yeah, so the stated goal of the Fed is 2%. We are at 3.36% right now, compared to 3.48% last month, and 4.93% last year. And at some point before that, we were at 8%, right? And
Ugh.
so we're definitely heading in the right
Oof.
direction. And basically, when the CPI numbers came out, earlier this week, that is part of why Bitcoin rose back up to $70,000 from 66,000, right? Because whenever we get good inflation reports, people are more willing to invest, of course, in on risk assets, right? So yeah, we're heading in the right direction. We're still not, at the 2%. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens with the elections, and that of course will really impact where we go. Uh, but good news nevertheless.
Do you see us getting hitting that 2% mark by the end of the year?
I don't know for sure. I think it's possible to get there. It's within reach. But yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the election, so it's really hard um, to predict it. Uh, but it could be.
And have we ever been? Is 0% inflation even possible?
I don't think so. I don't know that we've ever been there. I'm not, an economist, so probably other people would be better to answer it. But um, I think we've always hovered around, at least in my lifetime, that 2% mark. Um, 0% would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be.
but, but yeah, but that's why it's when you're leaving your money in fiat, it loses at least 2% every year. Um, but much more, because when you look at the inflation rate, it's a certain basket of a certain category of things that you buy, and it's not including real estate and things like that, which really go up at a much higher rate. And if you aspire to buy a house, then your money is really losing a lot more value, right? Like your purchasing power is going down by much more than 2%, right? Not to scare you, but that's why leaving your money in fiat versus like metals or real estate or crypto is not a good thing in my view. So the inflation rate is just what the government wants you to see, but it's much worse than what it what it is. But it's getting better. I don't want to take away from the positivity. It's all relative, right? And so if we're improving, then we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I certainly hope we can hit that 2% mark by the end of the year. I mean, sooner the better.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year would be nice. I think, without mentioning any names, there's probably one candidate that can get us there versus the other one. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
but
Uh,
yeah,
and
inflation.
and
I'm sorry.
and
Go
it's
ahead.
funny, like that a lot of people have that view now. It's in California too, which I never thought people would have the view. Not to get too political, but it's
No,
even
do
here,
it. Do it, guy. Do it.
even here, people used to be so against uh Trump. Like you even say his name, you'd be like canceled. But now everyone's like, well, for the economy, one candidate
Mhm.
is clearly better than the other. uh it's just funny to see kind of the mood shift so much in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, it's funny how that happens when people's money is messed with. But you kind
exactly.
of, people who don't, and it's with like with anything. If you're not there, you have a limited view of it. But people see a very small window of California if you don't live here. So if you do live here, that kind of shift is huge for people to be leaning toward or even talking about voting for Trump. And it's not even necessarily Trump, it's that R next to his name that
Right.
is just
Yes.
taboo in California. And there's definitely a feeling of hopelessness sometimes when it comes to voting because you're the more conservative vote, and not meaning that the people who vote are conservative or are Republican, but the more conservative vote is usually kind of washed away by the Democratic or far left psychosis that takes place along the coast, Hollywood, big tech up in the Bay Area. But when you get east and you get inland in California, politics really change. You find a lot of people who aren't with the craziness that you might see outside of California. All the
Yeah.
real nutty stuff. So
And and you know what I forgot to mention in the course of our conversation, just thinking about Democrats versus Republicans here, the U.S. House actually approved a crypto bill for the first time in the U.S. history. We've been so behind with crypto regulations, and this bill is called FIT 21, and essentially it lays down like a regulatory framework that classifies, is more clear on what is a security versus a commodity in the crypto world, and who has jurisdiction. When does the SEC govern govern certain assets, and when does the CFTC govern certain assets, which gives a lot more clarity and actually is very good for innovation here in the U.S. and for crypto adoption. It still has to go through the Senate, and it's unclear if it will
mhm.
or not. But we're still making progress, and it's kind of a bipartisan success here with big wave of Democratic support. Um, so that was good news this week, and also very bullish for crypto. I had to just mention that.
So there's two good pieces of news for you people. We're inching toward that 2% inflation mark. The crypto bill is making progress. It's headed to the Senate. Um, And people, if you have some money you want to invest, like we mentioned, a 401k or something like that, this is who you need to do business with. My Digital Money. You can, of course, go to mydigitalmoney.com, or you can give them a call, 833-636-2008. and you will talk to somebody who cares about your money and cares about your future. Customer service is a lost art, and they haven't lost it in My Digital Money. So if you want some people who are going to give you good information, great information, and try to help you do the best thing with your money, here you go. Here is the water horses. We've led you to it. Guy, I want to thank you, man, for being here, and thank you even more because now you're a married man. You know, we're pulling you away from your wife. So thank you for doing this. We will do it again. I hope that next time we do this, you have even more good news about crypto, about Bitcoin, about this bill that's making progress, about inflation. I think that would be great too. But I can't stress it enough. My Digital Money. That is who you need to be speaking with. That's who you need to be doing business with. And again, thank you guys for being here. And if you guys want to know how you can get that link, it will be in the description box. And once again, you want to do it old school, hop on the phone and talk to somebody. I understand because I'm like that. 833-636-2008. And until the next time, people, myself and Guy, we are out.